Let me also say welcome to all of you that are here for the very first time. These calls happen every Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. London time, and they'll continue going up until the launch, after which we will switch the cadence to more calls, and then we'll manage a lot of the training recognition through our Facebook page. So before I introduce Kim, I do want to say the business sessions, if you haven't registered for those, be sure to register and send your prospects there. They'll get to hear about Shakeology from Isabel Dykler, the vision and mission of Team Beachbody. You'll get to get coach perspectives from some top coaches that will have travel there. You'll get to meet and mingle with corporate, with SJ and Laura and Thomas and so many more. And of course, you'll get to taste Shakeology, and a few of you will get to work out with Shaun T. So the website to register is teambeachbodyuk.com, teambeachbodyuk.com. So be there and definitely send your coaches and future coaches there. And the last thing, again, just by way of reminder, for those of you that are just tuning in, we have a UK market update Zoom in 2 days, this Thursday at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, London time, so be sure to tune in. SJ will be posting more details on that. I'm going to go ahead and unmute my good friend, Mr. Kim Carver, and do a quick sound check. Do we have Kim on?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud.
The light was going out, so I had to switch to my window here, so hopefully the light looks okay.
Well, Kim, you look great. You sound even better.
You know, I appreciate that. I'm battling a little bit of a head cold, but I figured I wasn't contagious over Zoom, so we could still do this.
It just adds to the bass of your voice. So
I have a good radio voice right now.
You do. You look good too. You don't have a radio face. So let's jump right in. I have a knack for making Kim really uncomfortable. So let me just introduce Kim. Kim is our executive director of field training. He's just an incredible human being. For those of you that have heard him speak, you can attest to that. He's in charge essentially of anything that relates to the field from a training perspective. You've heard of the first 30 coach basics, any kind of best practice on what works the best for coaches. That's what Kim and his team do. Any kind of broadcast he's over. So the National Wake Up Call, the surges, planning the training around Summit, regional events. Kim is in charge of that. He's been a great addition to the team. You're going to see Kim for the next 3 weeks, and he's going to really give us a good understanding of what you need to do and how you need to prepare as a coach. So, Kim, great to have you.
All right. Well, you probably should have told us to be 3 weeks in a row. You might have declining viewership over the next couple of weeks here. But, no, I'm excited to be here, you guys. I'm super excited for our business in the United Kingdom to get things going out there and have a part here in helping you guys get ready. I know a lot of you on here are coaches or ready to become coaches, and I'm going to talk to you kind of that way. But even for those that aren't, just to give you an idea of a little bit who we are, how we do what we do, why we do what we do. And so today I want to talk about the 4 vital behaviors. And that will be the topic of what I cover. But I want to introduce it, maybe if I can, this way. You know, one of the an analogy I heard not too long ago, actually about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was it dealt with sprinting and the fundamentals of sprinting and how important they are. And when you talk to people in the world of sprinting, they will tell you really that there's really 2 things, okay, that matter most: stride length and frequency. And how quickly and how effectively and how professionally someone can execute on those 2 fundamentals is what determines how fast they go, okay? And so when you talk to coaches or people that are in that world, they're absolutely focused and completely committed to those key basic principles, right? That how can I increase my stride length? How can I increase my frequency? And everything they do is to help those things. Well, what does that have to do with us? Well, the funny thing is if you were to ask me before I learned this about what the fundamentals of sprinting would be, I probably would have said something about arm motion or maybe poise or position. And all those things probably are related to the fundamentals, but they're not the fundamentals. And really, when it comes to doing what coaches do, there are some key fundamental things that we have found time and time again to be at the core of success. Now, that doesn't mean it's everything. No, it doesn't mean it's everything. But what it means is that a coach's ability to master these 4 key areas, what I would call them the 4 vital behaviors, really is at the root of their ability to be successful in coaching. In fact, one of the things that I find most common with coaches, especially when they get started in their first year or 2 of business, is that they tend to overcomplicate things. And the reason is kind of a couple-fold. First of all, they don't know any better. Second of all, they tend to get really impatient with the process. They tend to get preoccupied with shortcuts, finding the shortcuts. And the biggest thing that I could tell you, coaches, as you get started here is forget about the shortcuts and just learn the skills. Learn the skills of successful coaching. And that's where, again, the 4 vital behaviors come into play. We got these vital behaviors over years and years and years of working with some of our most successful coaches and finding at the very root, what were the things that they were doing? What were the activities that they were engaging in? And then if you take those 4 vital behaviors then and you build a business plan, action plan around them, that's really how you'll be successful with this. So what I want to do today is go through these real quick. Now, just to give you a little bit of context here, typically when I go out, I'll do live trainings on the 4 vital behaviors where we'll go through and do a lot of role playing and best practicing, and we'll really dive deep into the topics. And those live trainings are usually about 3.5 hours long. So obviously, we're not going to do them all here. The purpose today is to have me maybe introduce them to you and give you a couple things that you can maybe start to think about or wrap your head around as you get prepared for things to launch next month. So let's get started here. Excuse me, like I said, I have a little bit of a head cold, so if I'm coughing or sniffling a little bit here, forgive me for that. So we're going to get started. The 4 vital behaviors. The first vital behavior is be proof the products work. What I'll do is I'll make sure our No actually sends out a post to the page. We have some tools that explain these, so our No, I'll make sure we can get those posted so they can go download these, okay? They'll give like an overview, so you don't need to necessarily write down what I'm saying. I'll give you all that information. Any thoughts or impressions, that's what you want to take notes on here, all right? So anyway, 4 vital behaviors. The first one, be proof the products work. Why is that a vital behavior? Why would being proof that the products work be so important to your business? But when I ask coaches that, a lot of the questions a lot of the answers I get are what you would probably expect, right? Credibility, right? If my network sees me using the products and getting results from the products, I'll be more effective at being able to promote those. They'll talk about even just the ability when people see the results that I'm getting, it creates curiosity or it creates belief that they can do it too, or that the products will actually work for them. A lot of coaches will also mention that being proof that the products work, one of the biggest benefits they have as a coach is it helps them stay accountable to their own workout and their own fitness programs. And I think that that's really imperative. One of the things that I think that you'll find as a coach is that you have to take care of yourself first. Getting your workout in, feeding your body appropriately, using Shakeology to help make sure your body's getting the nutrition it needs, taking care of yourself first is very, very important, okay? Taking care of yourself first enables you to be your best self for other people. And that's why being proof that products work is so important. It will generate those conversations. It creates opportunities for those things. It gives you the experience that you need to be able to talk in a credible way about the products we have. But I'm gonna list one more at the very end here that maybe you wouldn't expect. But to me, in the 3 years that I've worked with Team Beachbody, I think that this is one of those little secret parts of our secret sauce, if you will, that makes us successful. And that is discipline. There's a book I read about 1.5 years ago called Take the Stairs. And the premise of this book is all around the role of discipline in people being successful. And one of the premises that it talks about is that successful people tend to succeed in pretty much most facets of their life because success tends to be rooted in the ability to discipline oneself. And it makes the statement that you don't need self-discipline to do the things that you like to do. You need self-discipline to do the things that maybe you don't like to do or that are out of your comfort zone or that don't feel natural to you, but you know that are required for your success. And people who have self-discipline have the ability to understand that. And so instead of running from those things, minimizing those things, ignoring those things, they face those things head on. They develop competencies in those things that maybe they don't necessarily like. And they may never get to the point where they like them. Some do, but they may never get to the point where they love them. But they get to the point where those things are not working against them anymore. What does that have to do with being proof the products work? Well, let me tell you something right now. One of the most important things a coach can do at all times is be doing a program, a complete program. Because the discipline it takes to stick to a workout program, to maintain themselves disciplined to an eating program, clean eating, portion control, things like that. The discipline that it takes to do that, to take care of oneself, has a halo effect in other areas of their lives. I can promise you, one of the best things that you can do as a coach to increase your self-discipline is to do our programs. That discipline to do that will help you be more disciplined in doing the things you need to do to be successful as a coach, okay? The halo, discipline has a halo impact in your lives. You'll see that when you work with your customers. I promise you, you'll get people that will come to you, and at the core root of one of the main common things that they'll have at their core that they're struggling with is discipline. And that's the reason why we have a challenge group, why we have challenge packs, why we have the structure in place, because in that environment, they have the opportunity to start becoming more self-disciplined in what they're doing as far as taking care of themselves. And the funny thing is, you'll watch when you help your customers, as they increase their self-discipline in that area, it becomes easier for them to be more disciplined in other areas of their life, okay? Whether it's their relationships or their professional, their business, discipline has a halo effect. And so being proof the products work not only helps with all those other pieces, but for you coaches, the ones that are going to coach and need the self-discipline to be a good entrepreneur and do the things whenever you don't have a boss or a manager or the structure of a 9-to-5 job, when you need that self-discipline, that discipline will increase as you be proof the products work. All right? So that's vital behavior number 1. Vital behavior number 2 is inviting. Now, inviting is really this process of attracting and connecting with people, and then the actual invitation, which honestly, you guys, what I define as is the invitation is just helping someone make a decision to start. That's all we're trying to do here. Now, typically when I'm working with coaches, the inviting part of the vital behaviors tends to be where most of the anxiety lives here, where most of the anxiety comes from. And the reason is because that's where all the perceived risk is. The risk of being misunderstood, the risk of being judged, the risk of rejection, all the risk tends to live in this vital behavior. And so when we talk about self-discipline, where a lot of you are going to need the greatest self-discipline is in this vital behavior, okay? But the funny thing is, if you really look at where the greatest rewards of your business will come from, having a positive impact in somebody's life, leaving this legacy behind through your business, the financial rewards that come from coaching, all of those things, they also live in this vital behavior, inviting. And so in my experience, when it comes to inviting, the biggest headwind is that people tend to, well, instead of biggest headwind, the most common stumbling block, if you will, is that they tend to overcomplicate the invite. They get very preoccupied thinking there's some magical formula, magical scripts that they need to use that will convince people that they need to buy, right? And they overcomplicate it. And in their mind, they get so anxious about it because maybe they've had a bad experience, or they felt like they were misunderstood, or they had rejection. And over time, they build up this anxiety level that when they start to talk to people, the dominant thought in their mind is fear, is apprehension, is hesitation. And the people that are receiving that, they don't understand that. They view that as you being not as committed or unsure about what you're doing, or that you view them as really not being someone who this is going to work for. And that misunderstanding then perpetuates itself, and it makes it more and more challenging. And so one of the things we want to do, and we'll talk about and you'll learn about as coaching when it comes to inviting, is we want to keep it really simple. We want to keep it really easily understood that, at least with Team Beachbody, here's what you're not going to do as a Team Beachbody coach. We're never going to teach this. If you do it, it's up to you. But I am never going to condone or teach any type of manipulation in sales techniques. Our goal as coaches is not to back someone into a corner where they feel like they have no option but to say yes. You can do that and create a transaction, but you don't want to create a business based on transactions. You want to create a business based on relationships where there's ongoing usage of the products and long-term relationships that are built. So how do you do that? Well, you talk to people. You become curious. You find out where they're at. You find out the things that they're struggling with. You find out what their needs happen to be. And then you offer to help. And you have to come into this as a coach, not with the expectation that everyone's just going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for you to come talk to me because I've been waiting for this solution, and here you are. You might find those kind of people, and those ones are easy. Those ones you don't need help with, right? But the majority of people that you're going to be talking to, the reason why you're talking to them is because they are not good at making positive decisions with their health and fitness. That's why they need you. And so to expect them to already have resources and money set aside to be able to pay for this, to expect them to have time and the commitment to be able to have this, you have to feel like they're in the right environment and their mindset where they're just going to embrace all of this. You might have to change that mindset and say, look, I'm trying to help someone do something that they're not used to doing, that they're not accustomed to investing in and spending time on. And so part of my thing is I have to help them change their mindset. And the first thing is helping them get to that decision to just get started. And if you frame it in that mindset of all I'm trying to do is help them get started, that simplifies it. You're not asking them to buy a house. You're not asking them to buy a car. You're not asking them to invest, every penny that they own in some, real estate investment. You're asking them to buy a challenge pack. People spend their money on a lot crazier stuff every single month. You're asking them to do that. So don't take that pressure back off yourself. Realize what you're doing and the nobility of what you're doing. And understand that it's okay to push a little bit sometimes because people aren't used to making that. But if you've taken the time to connect with them, to make that kind of relationship, and I'm not saying spending months chatting with them, but that they know you as a person. They've seen your social media pages. You've chatted with them maybe through comments or private messages, whatever. But they know that that's a priority to you, is the people that you're working with. Then they're not going to begrudge you trying to help them get started with that, okay? When it comes to inviting, there are two areas that you want to focus time on. The first one is expanding your network. This is the most ignored element of inviting. I promise you right now, in my experience, the vast majority of frustrations around inviting, okay, center on not expanding your network adequately enough on a consistent enough basis. You've always got to be expanding that network. And then the second is obviously the inviting process, helping someone make the decision to start. Now, what I'm going to do is we just launched this in the last 6 months, 2 really good trainings around both expanding your network and the inviting process that we like to promote at Team Beachbody. All right. I'm going to have Arnaud. I'll get him to Arnaud and he can post them for you guys. They'll be localized by launch for the UK market as well. But it's 99% of the stuff is the same. And so you can get a feel for what that looks like. I would encourage you right now to be aggressively expanding your network, creating connections, building relationships, talking to people, engaging in stuff. That will be one of the best things that you can be doing right now if you're looking to coach with us starting next month. When it comes to the inviting process, and I know this is where I've seen a lot of things come here saying they struggle with this and this is frustrating to me, and I got you. I get you. I can promise you something. You'll get better at it. Okay? I want you to simplify it. I want you to keep it simple, and I want you to remember a couple key things here. Okay, first of all, we're not trying to manipulate people. We want to build connections. We want to reach back. We want to build connections, and then we want to help people make the decision to start. Look at that inviting training. It's very conversational. It's broken down into phases just to help you understand sequentially where you're at and what the next step is to help them get to a decision where they're saying yes. But you really want to just focus on being you, being curious, meeting people where they're at, and never being afraid to ask for the decision to start, to encourage the decision to start, okay? And so that's what that was going to be. I was going to go with a little analogy, but I will save that for when I come and do a live training out there around inviting. So I think you guys get inviting. You will get better at it as time goes on. Just be patient with yourself, and it is a skill that you will develop, but there are some best practices you can put into play. Okay, so that's vital behavior number 2, inviting. And vital behavior number 3 then is do personal development. Personal development, guys. If you've ever done an entrepreneurial endeavor before, you'll kind of know where I'm at. If this is your first time, I cannot overemphasize how important personal development is for your business. It will be one of those things that you'll have a hard time connecting exactly, I did personal development and this happened, but you will know when you've done it consistently and then you stop doing it, you will feel the difference. And if you've never done it consistently before and you start doing it, you will feel the difference, okay? And so when it comes to personal development, understand a couple things. You are your greatest business investment. A lot of times right now, I know you're spending time on getting to training and reading things and getting connected, and all that is very, very important. But if you're not also getting in the habit of building and developing yourself, you're going to be deficient in that area, in a key area. All right. In this business model that is so relationship based and so that is so reliant on you and your abilities to connect with people and talk with people, it also can be very emotionally draining. It can also be somewhat lonely at times. It can feel a little disconcerting because you're not in an office environment. You don't have a boss or a manager. You don't have those structures that so many people get comfortable with in traditional employment. Personal development helps with that. It helps you be the best version of you. It helps encourage you to keep driving forward. It helps you push through obstacles. It helps keep your mind centered on the things that matter most. You have to know how to lead yourself first before you can effectively lead other people. All right, you guys? It's like I heard this analogy several years ago, and I don't know if these prices are right, but the illustration is correct. The speaker that I was watching, he held up a bar of iron. It's about this big, and it was only about this thick. And he said, "Here's a bar of iron. How much do you think this bar of iron costs?" And everyone kind of raised their hand and guessed. And he said, "Well, it costs $5 US dollars." And then he held up some horseshoes, and he said, "This same bar of iron made these horseshoes. How much do the horseshoes cost?" People guessed. He says, "Well, it's $50. Same iron, $5 to $50. What's the difference?" It took everyone a second, but they were like, "Well, someone came and took the iron and shaped it and created something more useful out of it." He's like, "Correct." Then he brought up this needle, and he said, "With that same bar of iron, you can create, I don't remember, it's like 20,000 of these needles right here." Okay, and he held these little needles. And all of those needles combined are worth $5,000. Same iron. What's the difference? And now we were trying to kind of pick up on it. And he didn't wait for us. He said, then he brought up this little teeny spring. It was about this big. And he said that same bar of iron can make about 100,000 of these little springs. And these little springs are what they use to wind fine handmade Swiss watches. And all of those springs together have a value of about $500,000. Same bar of iron. What's the difference? The difference is the amount of time that was invested into that bar of iron. The amount of time that was put into that bar of iron to make it better, to refine it, to continue to have it grow. One of the things that you'll find as coaches, one of the greatest opportunities is this refinement that you have, okay? And maybe right now you're at horseshoes, or maybe right now you're at needles, or maybe you're the bar of iron. I don't know where you're at on that analogy that I gave. But I do know that as you continue to work and to develop yourself, that things that you bring to the table are more valuable, that you become more valuable, that you become more competent, more able. And it is absolutely critical. The reason is, in my experience, is that life turns on the small decisions that you make. Sometimes we can get really preoccupied on the big decisions that are coming. We see them coming, we focus on them, we try to prepare for them, or sometimes they just show up and we get really preoccupied with them. But when you look at really what has the greatest cumulative effect on our life, it's those small, quiet decisions that we make. I was doing some research on this just this past weekend for a presentation I gave. And depending upon your source, they say that in any given day, a person makes between 10,000 to 30,000 choices every single day. Choices that are at least somewhat conscious decisions. Most of them are unconscious enough that we're not really aware of them, but they're these little decisions that we make every single day. And the funny thing is when your mindset isn't aligned to the direction that you want to go, those choices tend to push you in the direction that you don't want to go. And so when we talk about, again, personal development is one of the ways that we align those small choices that we make every single day to the direction that we want to go. So it's pushing us in that direction. And we don't know why. We can't put our finger on why, but our mindset is aligned to our goals, to the things that we want. And those choices then tend to line up behind that. Our choices tend to support that. And all of a sudden, the cumulative impact over time of all those choices tend to get us in that direction that we want to go. So Personal development, very, very important. I'll get people ask me from time to time. They'll say, "So what are you reading right now?" So I grab some things. Hold on. This has been the books I've read so far this year for personal. I'll start this. So I'll start with my favorite one that I've read so far this year is this book called Grit. I love this book. I think for anyone who's doing anything like what coaches do or anything else, this book has impacted me not only that way, but also how I think about how I raise my kids, et cetera, et cetera. So Grit's a great book. I always read these two books at least once a year: How to Influence and Influence People and The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Those are two of my just kind of standard. I read them all the time. I also read Smarter, Better, Faster. It's a pretty good book this year. Go Give or Sell More was a really, really good book. Especially it really aligns up well with our approach to inviting. So if you're struggling kind of with inviting and how to do that, this is a really good one to read. Emotional Intelligence, we got a post-it on here. I read this one right here. It's just good to kind of help understand other people and how other people think, including how you think as well. The 12-Week Year was a good read. I just finished The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And right now, the one I just barely started yesterday is The Obstacle is the Way. Now, why do I show those to you? Well, I'm not some, I'm not, I guess what I'm trying to show is that it's important to me. It's not just something that I say, but it's something that I live and something that I really, really believe in. And I read all those books. I read about 15 minutes every single morning before my day starts. That's how I can go through those books. I highlight them. I take notes. I have a thing on my computer where I jot down thoughts and impressions and ideas from each one of them so I can quickly go back and refer to them. And so that's what I do. If you're looking to start anywhere, again, talk to your coach if they've got some recommendations for you. And if you'd have nowhere else to start, I would start either with Go Give or Sell More if you're curious about inviting, or that book Grit that I talked about. Okay. Last vital behavior. Vital behavior number 4 is recognize. Okay. It's all about recognition. When it comes to recognition, to me, this is one of those competitive advantages that coaches have in their business over all kinds of other solutions. You know your customers. You know your people on your team. You have the chance to help celebrate meaningful accomplishments for them. In fact, that's how we define recognition, is celebrating any meaningful achievement or event that is aligned to the direction that we're trying to go or the goals that we're trying to achieve. And I know one of the things that some of you are going to think about is you're going to say, well, I'm just getting started as a coach. What can I recognize? And the thing that I always push back on that is, well, let's think more strategically. Okay? It isn't about necessarily what's right or wrong as far as recognition. It's about what you want to reinforce, right? So if you look at your goals, the things you're trying to accomplish, what are some ways that you can use recognition then to reinforce those things? One of the things you want to make sure you do as coaches to really leverage this strategic advantage is to use recognition strategically in your business, to celebrate. Hey, you know what? When you're getting started, you might celebrate when people make the decision to start and to join a challenge group. You might celebrate when someone makes a decision to start coaching and you welcome them to your team. You might recognize people when they show up, every day in a week for a challenge group. You might recognize a coach who has the courage to extend their first invite, even if it wasn't successful, right? They had that first conversation. There are so many options when it comes to recognition. You just have to get used to thinking strategically. One of the things, like when I talk to Arnaud and SJ and Thomas, we talk a lot about the culture of Team Beachbody. And one of our big desires is to help make sure that you guys kind of understand and can feel that culture and can take that culture and bring it into your businesses. And, give it your own unique flavor and taste, but you can bring that into your business. And one of the best ways to do that is through recognition. When you're creating culture, the things that you celebrate together as a team or the things you celebrate in that group are really what convey the things that you value. And the things that you value are really what drive or the underpinnings of your culture. And so recognition is really, really important in driving that. There are always things that we can be recognizing for. So let's, as you're getting started, think through what some of those pieces are. Yes, let me answer a couple of questions here real quick. I know they're coming in. I'm just rambling here 100 miles an hour. Look, you got them all listed. I really like the audiobook option as well. I listen to some when I drive when I'm flying, but I like to also read, so I like to take notes and highlight. So a couple things real quick I wanted to do to wrap up here. So those are the 4 vital behaviors: be proof the products work, invite, do personal development, recognition. Okay, so what now? Well, I would encourage you to go and to talk to your coach about the 4 vital behaviors. If they haven't talked to you already, chances are, they've kind of outlined how those dovetail into some daily actions. Okay, and hopefully this helps give a little more context behind some of that. If you don't have a coach that you can talk to, or even if you do, I would encourage you to go through and check out the training materials that either Arnaud or SJ or Thomas will post for you guys with this, that just kind of walks through what the 4 vital behaviors are, but specifically around expanding your network and then the inviting process, as those tend to be, again, the areas where the people have the most anxiety. And we want to get a head start on that, especially to expanding your network. And then the last thing I would say is make sure that you're engaging in some form of personal development right now. Start filling your well right now, so that as you jump into this business, you already have this wealth of emotional energy and strength that you can draw from as you get your business started. You guys, the 4 vital behaviors work. We just are in the process of kind of doing some surveying, some looking at some of the best practices of our most successful coaches this year, the ones that are having the greatest increase in income year over year and just doing really well. And one of the questions that we asked them are the 4 vital behaviors still relevant to you? And are there any that we're missing? And to a person, they've said, yes, they're absolutely more relevant. The people who do the vital behaviors every single day are the ones that are having success on my team. And the people that really don't just go through the motions, but they really try to take those 4 vital behaviors, to make them their own, to embrace what they are, to center their time and their energy around those 4 vital behaviors, again, keeping it simple, are the ones that tend to get the traction and tend to be the ones that are having the most success. The only other thing to add to it, honestly, is consistency. And I don't know if consistency is a vital behavior yet, but we'll talk about it. But they talk about the importance of doing them consistently. So the 4 vital behaviors work, you guys. And I know that if you will put them into play for yourselves and will leverage them, that they'll work for you as well. So Arnaud, maybe what I can do now is I'm happy to just stay on and take questions, or I'm happy to do whatever I can do to help from here.
Excellent. Well, listen, we usually try to keep these within 30 minutes. It looks like we right on time as far as 30 minutes. If there's any questions, now is the time. I think some of the questions were the list of books that you shared, which we posted those there. I'm just scanning through. I think we're all set. Okay. Speaking of recognition, just want to recognize you for the time that you spend and you're going to spend with us. And just kind of making something that is complicated so simple for people to execute against. And that's exactly what Kim is going to talk about next week, where he's going to essentially take us through what we call the first 30, right? You've got all this information. What do you do in the first 30 minutes, 30 hours, 30 days of your business? As we know, the start stops most people. So for those of you that are going to be jumping on, we definitely look forward to it. Invite your other coaches. This is basic fundamental training that will help you build a successful business. So thanks for being on, Kim. And
thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.